Sounds so official. So welcome. Thank you for coming this morning. I appreciate it. I'm Jules, as you know, but if you could give us a little introduction of yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Lyn Garling, and I've been the owner of this little piece of property we call Over the Moon Farm since 1998.
I'm Patty Niner, and I joined Lyn in 2003 and have been a part of this ever since.
That's awesome. And so what have been some of your biggest challenges, some of your biggest joys in running it for the last few years?
Well, owning a farm was always a dream of mine. So part of the challenge was, okay, now I have a farm. What's the dream? How's the dream going to manifest? Right. And so, once I got into trying out a lot of different kind of enterprises, I would say my day-to-day challenges had to do with just, stamina, mental and physical stamina, because I was constantly in a decision-making process. There was always problem solving. But the flip side of that, like a lot of things, it also became a joy over time, because you're making your own decisions, right? You're the owner of your destiny in a sense. So, it's the two sides of the same coin. So owning a farm turned out to be like an incredible growth experience, which of course was constantly a challenge and constantly a joy. So that was my experience.
For me, since Lyn did most of the business part, I was more the grunt work type side of the farm. And for me, the biggest challenge I really think was weather, having to deal with all the differences in the weather, taking the turkeys down to get butchered in the middle of a snowstorm, or having, a hurricane come through in the middle of the night and you got to get the chickens to, in under cover, or, being at farmer's market and the wind kicks up and the tent blows away, and, just getting to that sense of trying to always be in tune with the weather and how to deal with it, with all the different parts of the farm that you kind of have to watch, and I'd say that, the biggest joys for me in this farm have been the people that I've met, whether they've come and helped on the farm or stayed with us, or the customers that we've met. Those are all people I never would have interacted with without the farm as the vehicle. So to me, that's been the real reward, along with having, being able to sit down to dinner with really healthy food that we know where it came from.
That brings me to another question. What did you keep? What did you grow? Would you have done anything different?
Well, we
tried many things.
Yeah, right. I was like, where to begin with that one? Yeah, I mean, when I 1998, it was kind of a mess. It didn't have a lot of infrastructure, and we were just learning about rotational grazing here in that time, right into the 2000s. And during that time, though, I thought, well, we can start with a low risk thing. So we started with chickens. And once I got more land, I bought an additional 21 acres. I started raising heifers, rotationally graze them on contract. The reason those two things are good is that raising heifers is a contract situation. You get paid every month. And chickens, it's low risk. Like if you lose a little baby chick, it's really different from losing a feeder pig or a calf or a cow, right? And with chickens in 8 weeks, you've got your income back in 8 weeks. So it was kind of building the economic model and trying to make it fit with the infrastructure, which wasn't very great. So over the years, we just kind of leapfrogged one thing after another. One thing paid for another. If it wasn't paying, we dropped it. We tried something else. So in the end, we sort of settled on raising broilers, but pasture-raised chickens, pastured pigs, and turkeys. And then we sold all those direct to the customers. And we had a fabulous market by the end. I mean, we had a really good, we have a good customer base. There's a lot of demand in this area. We're very close to Penn State and Bucknell universities. And so those people want this food, and COVID just made it even more extreme. So in fact, we're sort of getting out at the height of our market popularity, if I could put it that way, just because we need to, but it's a very good area for that. So we let the market kind of be the guide. and built the infrastructure we needed. So it's been animal agriculture for us, primarily grass-based.
Well, those are the things that we sold. We also had a large garden, which dwindled and dwindled as we got older and it was harder. And at the end of market, we had farmers that would give us produce. So,
Like,
you know, why are we digging up potatoes all the time when we can get them from our friends at the market? So
Right on. That's great. This is off script because it was something that you mentioned and I wanted to follow up on it. The weather, right? So we're hearing from our members and our farmer members and producers that this year has been even more extreme than previous years. You know, and that the weather services aren't even getting it right? They're like saying, oh yeah, dry conditions will continue. And you're sitting there going, it's pouring rain and hailing right now. What do you mean dry conditions, you know, will continue? So how do you, you know, what were your experiences with weather? Do you see, you know, evidence of rapidly changing weather or not rapidly changing weather? Inconsistencies?
I mean, Patty could probably speak to that in her own way because she does most of the mowing out in the open field. And every time lightning comes, I'm like, oh my God, get back. I feel like we've seen like so much more fluctuation, that the things that happen are so much more intense. Last year we had a serious drought for us, and this year we're like in the monsoon season. Like it will not stop raining. We have these, and it's humid and these downpours. I'm like, what the heck? And as you mentioned, the weather people aren't getting it. I'm like, where did that come from? It's not even in the weather, right? So, and it's been a challenge, especially, you know, of course, when we were trying to raise hay or when we had inadequate infrastructure for the poultry that we couldn't put them inside. I mean, we changed what we were doing because of that. We needed to be able to shelter them. We've had tornadoes. I mean, this is Pennsylvania. So yeah, we have, but you know, one good thing for our farm though, is we have two sources of water. One's a mountain spring and one's a well, and the well has never given up on us. The mountain spring sometimes, like in deep summer, will go for a couple months, but we're lucky that way. We haven't had water issues, but yeah, the weather's wacky.
Yeah, and we've had to over time, I think, you know, we've adapted the housing for our animals. So we're, for example, like the chickens, broiler chickens have been in all kinds of different things, you know, starting with that Salatin pen. But, you know, we ended up with actually having like a chicken house on skids built. And so we don't move it every day. We move it by the batch because it's only at morning and evening that they really move around anyway. And so Lyn had electric and water run the whole way down the one side of the farm. And so with that building, we can set up fans because it's hotter now than it used to be. And so we keep fans on them all the time. And then the same out, you know, the structures we had for the pigs got a little bit more intensive so that they could have better shade and things like that. You know, and we would go out there every day and just spray them down when it was really hot.
The pigs.
The pigs, yes, not the
not the chickens.
Right.
So you're selling the farm, like literally selling the farm. Somebody's going to buy this farm. You know, my second question, but my first question before it is, what's your elevator pitch? What is somebody getting when they buy Over the Moon farm?
Well, I would say, I mean, looking at it from my perspective, we were perfectly poised. It's a turnkey farm. We're perfectly poised for any number of enterprises. I always describe our farm as a tinker toy farm because when I built all the different structures we built, I built it with the idea of multiple potential uses, right?
Oh, cool.
So a person could come here often say, because I'm getting lots of people stopping by, mostly Amish actually. And I said, you know, you could move in here tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, you could start your business because everything works. We have a walk-in freezer, a commercial kitchen, 3 buildings that have multiple uses because of the way they're built. You can put corrals up inside, stalls up inside, take them down, store equipment, you know, do whatever you want. So it's got so many possibilities. And with somebody with an entrepreneurial spirit,
Mhm.
You know, we've got an event, what we call the multi-purpose barn, which is for events. It's for like weddings and parties and meetings and all that kind of stuff. And frankly, we never really, that was the vision, but we were
Mhm.
never really able to manifest it because we were both working off the farm most of the time, and then working, you know, farm animals and markets and all that. And we didn't have, you know, somebody as an event coordinator. That wasn't really our
Right.
thing, but
Right.
the right people could move in here and they could add vegetables, greenhouses, do integrated animals and veggies, you know, tours, kids programs, you name it, it's all here. So I don't know what the next person's going to do. The elevator pitch is it's ready. Come and get it.
So given that, who would be your ideal, like if you could just say like, oh, this is the person, I would love it if X person or this person hopefully having these values, what would that person be? Or who would that person be?
Well, for me, it's not so much a person, but I can see how, like, first of all, one person can't do it. So
Yeah.
I would say I see like a team, you know, and people younger than us, but not 18, because, you know, you
Yeah.
need some experience that's ready for somebody who knows what they want to do next. As a team, they could do any number of those things that I was just talking about. And I have this thing, I want the farm to be used, you know, I want it to be able to be all it can be, so to speak. So there's lots of ideas that I have. But of course they're going to make it theirs. So I can't really, you know, put that on them. But I'm just saying, like a couple who is very entrepreneurial, it doesn't have to be a couple, it could be a team, maybe a group of people that want to go in together. And basically that they are the kind of people that respect the land, have the values of stewardship, because, you know, we never used any, you know, prohibited substance, quote unquote, like they say in organic, and never will, never did. And, you know, and so it's set up for that kind of thing. And I would hope that the next person isn't, you know, just kind of like, okay, let's tear this up and do something else and put chemicals on the ground, that kind of thing. So really.
Yeah, I mean, another kind of more out of the box option is also, you know, for maybe there's a couple that would like to support local food, they could buy this place and there's an apartment attached to the back of the house that they could, you know, offer for a farmer. So the farmer could, you know, rent or, you know, whatever, and they could help, you know, maybe with their business skills or things like that. But we've always felt like this farm had kind of a healing sense to people who have been here. And so, you know, for me, I would like it to be able to see, you know, people that come to this farm still, it, you know, it touches their heart somehow. It's not just, oh, I'm a woofer there for 2 weeks and then I'm off somewhere else. But it, you know, a lot of the people we've had here just keep coming back. You know,
or we can't get rid of them.
Well, yeah, or we can't get rid of them. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a really special place.
Well,
and I'd like to see that continue.
I want to say something about that because Patty put together, she has a background in landscape architecture and horticulture, and she put together this beautiful perennial spirit garden. And we called it a spirit garden because we had a barn fire in 2005 and it killed our pigs. We had pigs in the barn, a mother sow with a bunch of babies. And of course we were like bereft. Mm-hmm. And we put their carcasses out there and made them into a compost pile and said, someday we're going to put a spirit garden here. Because if our business is taking the lives of animals, you know, we have to respect those lives. Mm-hmm. And then not just their lives, but everybody's lives. Then subsequently, you know, we had losses in our family, you know, Patty's mom, Patty's brother, and, you know, and so Patty was like, okay, now it's time. And she built this beautiful garden that's so, I can't even describe it exactly, but it's very peaceful and people come to it, you know, and so it's part of the farm. You know, for us, that beauty is part of the farm. It's not just all economics, you know, chop, chop. So,
yeah, it's a wonderful place to just sit down at the end of the day when you're ready for that, you know, beer or just cold drink. You can just sit there and
smell the lily.
And smell the lily, yes.
Oh my God, it's so magical. I wish that I had the means and the opportunity to go out and look at it right now.
It's a nice place.
So in what you were just saying, it actually leads up perfectly to the final question that I had for you. What advice would you give to somebody who is beginning farming or ranching? What would be your key advice?
Well, it depends, because like, we did have this conversation, you and I, Jules, kind of on the side about, there's that question, and then that question asked of women.
Hmm.
So say you're a woman wanting to get into farming, and that's, there's another layer. So like if you say, what advice would you give to a beginning farmer? Okay, everybody, you can kind of say a bunch of things, but what makes the woman thing different? I mean, it's a little unusual to have two women farming. And when I bought it, it was, I was doing, all of a sudden I'm stepping into this man's world, so to speak, especially because I was doing livestock and cows included, that's a dude world, that thing, that big livestock thing. So, it took a lot of, I don't know if courage is the right word, because I don't feel like I was courageous. I feel more like I had to just decide to own it, not in the own money sense, but I mean, decide. I've always wanted to farm. I said, if you want to do this, you're going to have to start sometime. Just do it, right? And I'd spent all these years learning. And I see women do this, I think. It's like, oh my God, I have to know everything, and I have to learn this, take this class, go to this field day. And then somehow you always need to learn, and you never get around to making the jump, doing the decision. And so I kind of kicked my own self in the butt and said, okay, you just have to do it. And it was really scary. But so what I sort of, I guess if I just had to put it in a capsule from the woman's point of view, it's sort of like, take up your own space, just be there, don't get pushed around, but also be humble, because you're embedded in an enterprise that it will knock you on your butt time and time again, because there's no way you can be like arrogant or prideful and try to farm. If you do, you'll find out that doesn't get you anywhere. And you have to get along with your neighbors. Mm-hmm. So you move into a neighborhood where you're a woman farmer, and they're like, what the heck, right? Everybody's already got their antenna up watching you. And you have to just sort of gird up your loins and go forward, right? And it'll be okay. But you have to be, I guess, brave. That's not really the right word, and it's fine. All of a sudden there you are taking up space.
Maybe bold. It's not brave. Yeah. Bold.
Well, bold, I guess. I mean, however it feels to you, like, to each individual person, if they really want to farm, there's something holding them back. I mean, I don't mean the money part or any of that. I mean, emotionally, spiritually, whatever that thing is, find it and get over that step, because otherwise you're just going to always, oh, gee, I wish I coulda, shoulda, woulda, whatever. And, it doesn't really happen that way. And boy, once you step on the other side, it's a whole new world. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but add to it the sense that, never stop learning. And that means, the actual skills, but also emotionally and spiritually, really be willing to look at yourself and be willing to say, I can't do this, but I can hire somebody to do this, or, instead of having to be the tough one, because and it's hard to say that, because in youth, we don't even really think about it, but we end up with the bad back and the bad knees, like I have from that. But I would also say, seek out good mentors, in a network of people around you who, are willing to offer. We had PASA, which was a lot, Pennsylvania Association for Sustainable Agriculture, and those conferences every year, people in PASA were not afraid to offer any information about how they were doing things. They weren't, afraid you were going to get a better business than them. They were always very willing, and then we had the Women's Ag Network where, we could reach out to people that we had met through that, and just get, maybe it's even just support or, but having those other people and not trying to do it alone is a big thing. Because I I don't know, I just kind of see farmers especially rural, very isolated. And so you have to work harder when you're rural to find that network and make it a priority. And we have, I mean, there'll be days where it's like, okay, we're not going to do anything. We're going to drive 2 hours and visit Lee and Johnny, that kind of thing. But you come back so charged up and ready to keep going.
Oh, and I do want to add something to that too, from the women point, and maybe everybody point, but whatever, is that, don't be afraid that if you don't come from farming, you can't do it. Because I have people even now say to me, they're like, how did you learn all this stuff? I mean, did your family have a farm? And I had no farming in my family. It was just always something I wanted to do and I kept gravitating towards. And in some ways, frankly, it's an advantage because I mean, if you look at like Angie Carter's work about like women in conservation and who gets to make what decisions and how women don't really even, if they're embedded
I look
in
at Angie Carter's work every day. I'm going to be perfectly
I
honest.
love her stuff so much. She is my
Right.
hero. You can tell her that.
All
That
right, I
one
will
article
definitely
about
pass
we
that
don't
on.
even equal one man was the best ever, because she's like hit the nail on the head, and she
Yes.
came up with stuff that nobody else has said that is so true to my experience.
Mhm.
But anyway, the point being is that don't let that be an impediment, because actually in my book, it's an advantage. Because you're already going to be different because you're doing sustainable stuff. Maybe you're already going to be different because you're whatever, you're not from here. You don't have one of the last names that everybody has, but that gives you tremendous freedom because they care less about what you do.
Right.
It's not like I was embedded in a family and I was a black sheep because I went to do this other thing,
Right.
So,
Uncle Johnny
and
didn't
just
do it that way. Well,
exactly.
You don't have that
And they
pressure.
already assume that you're a little bit weird. So, hey, you got the advantage. And then just make good relationship with your neighbors. Like Patty said, learn from everybody. Don't let politics or religion or anything get in the way of, if you're hanging over the fence discussing how to treat that heifer for like, a sore foot, just go there, skip the rest of that stuff. And pretty soon you're like in there. It's good.
Well, and the one last thing I would say, we always joked about, don't quit your day job, so have some other form of income to help. Lyn didn't build this just on farming income, or, she was able to, we both worked full time as well as do the farm full time. So, and the reason we could do it is we loved it so much, it wasn't a burden. But, having some other, even if it's just part-time, some other source of income, so that, if you do lose that crop or that, bunch of birds, you have some money to fall back on.
Thank you. That is perfect advice and a perfect place to end. Tell us again the date of the auction.
It's on Labor Day, Monday, September 6th. And if people want to visit meantime or call me up, whatever, that's great. And you can also participate in the auction by phone. So you don't even have to be here on that day necessarily.
Oh, that's neat.
But if you can make a trip out, even better, because then you'll have seen it.
Right.
And
Sorry, go ahead. And
No,
after your next adventure, hopefully we'll bring you in my neighborhood, right?
Yes, I hope so.
I'm hoping for that. And can we draw on your sage wisdom, regardless of the fact that you're not going to be in farming anymore? I think your experiences are amazing and your insights are great. And if we could have you as a resource, that would be wonderful.
Sure. I don't know about Patty. I wouldn't consider myself sage anything, but I've been through a few things, so can give those perspectives anyhow.
I think that's what makes people sage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wisdom isn't there's some expression there somewhere, like wisdom is
right.
Difficult experiences or something like that. Yeah. So, well, thank you both. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I wish you all the success and peace and joy and laughter and everything else that you're continuing. I know that you have some right now, but to continue and expand and grow. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much
you
for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
I look forward to meeting you in person when we get out there.